Hello and welcome to the video. This is a video going over, well, at least showing the process of me trying to illustrate one of the characters for a story I have in mind. Not that that was necessarily the original intent. In fact, if you look over to the right side of the screen, you're going to see a plethora of references that were actually the inspiration. By inspiration, I mean this started because I watched Frieren. Finally, I've heard it's great. It is in fact really good. And having watched it, I was absolutely taken away by the way they drew eyes. Specifically, the iris and pupils, with those three little half circles of color and that one line at the lash line of usually red. It was gorgeous, and I needed to do it. But I needed more than that. I was like, I'm not just gonna draw eyes. That's nah. So I thought, okay, what if this becomes a bit of a study in styles and features I like? Pull some features from other art styles that I like and mash them all up together to make one theoretically perfect human. And I did some research, found some things that I liked for the head. And then I realized, okay, this isn't gonna work for the body. It's not. Plus, I don't really like drawing humans. So what would I even be drawing? Myself? I don't really want to draw myself. A fan art of someone? It doesn't really... I did that recently and it didn't turn out well, so I didn't really want to do that again. So like, well, maybe I could do it with a non-human. But then that kind of defeats the purpose of the whole study and reference thing. And then I remembered, hey, I actually do have a human character that I am actually attached to, who I have tried to draw multiple times, and, you know, has never quite been perfect. This is the perfect opportunity to try that one again. So welcome to the screen! Unnamed character! Haha! Yep, it doesn't have a name. It has a title for its role in the story, but no name. And probably no name for a very, very long time. That doesn't mean I don't know anything about this character, though. First off, I was really, really trying to hit an androgynous look, because they are non-binary. And I didn't want them to look too much like anything. And it turns out that is really difficult. Especially with the eyes. Oh my god. Okay, so... I realized that with the style of eye I was doing, which is heavily anime inspired, the main characteristic between feminine eyes and masculine eyes is essentially length and height. Long but short eyes? Okay, that doesn't make sense. Short but wide eyes that are really sharp tend to lean more towards the masculine in a lot of the anime styles, that I was seeing at least. But the character is also meant to be a young teenager, and I didn't want to give them such mature-looking eyes. Plus, I did want to keep them, like, semi-soft, because once again, androgynous. I didn't want them to look too much like anything. So I really struggled with that, even though I was using, in part, a male reference for the eyes. But the art style I took the male reference from is really heavy on eye makeup, for reasons, and I wasn't using makeup, but there was still a lot of eyelash, which I like, hence why I included it. But once again, in a lot of styles, especially Western styles, eyelashes read as feminine, not masculine. I eventually found the middle ground by giving them slightly shorter eyes and a lot more, how would you say, upturned angle towards the inner eye. It worked. I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it for now. The fact that they have the bushiest eyebrows helps as well. And yes, did I look at Mike Guy and think about using him as a reference? Yes, but his eyebrows are flat rectangles And I wanted them to be a little fluffy, you know, a little more natural. But I am aware of him, and he is great. The nose reference is 100% from Witch Hat Atelier. Their noses are understated, but perfect. And was, I want to say surprisingly difficult. It's not that they were surprisingly difficult, it was that they did something interesting I hadn't noticed anywhere else. And that is that they essentially shaded in the shape of the, what is that indent called above your lip? Above the Cupid's bow? To imply the shape of the nose and the mouth. Which is fascinating. I don't know if that's something I will incorporate into more of my work, but I really like that. And I don't know that I would have noticed it if I hadn't done this study. And it's not really a study, let's be clear. It was an inspiration from 1 or 2 photos, not a real study. A real study would involve a lot more actual studying and repetition and all that stuff. Didn't do that. The hair, I struggled to find a good reference for. There's so many anime with really, really, really pretty hair. Like, oh my god, so pretty. And realistically, I probably would have pulled from Arcane for hair, because everything they do is amazing. But I was already pulling from them for the eye shading, and that especially the inner eye highlight that is just iconic for them. So I eventually settled on Violet Evergarden because Violet's hairstyle has braids in it, which matters for this character who also has braids. Because that is important to the culture from where this character is from. Which I guess maybe we could start going on that, because most of the rest of the drawing process, or the entire drawing process, depending on how far into the video this voiceover is going, is a lot of mirroring. Which, yes, mirroring does cause your art to look stiffer. This is absolutely true. I 100% agree in asymmetry being helpful, and I also agree of trying to draw something on both sides. I think it helps flex your artistic muscles, and can help you quite a bit. That being said, this was not an exercise in being good at drawing people. This was an exercise in exploring styles and getting this character done. And I did not need... Well... It was easier, faster, and perfectly functional for my purposes to use the mirror tool a lot. Which I do. And I'm not ashamed of that. This is a reference illustration, not a dynamic character illustration. Yeah, I'm going with that. We're sticking with it. Well, I guess we can get into the design a little bit. This character has been through... I've attempted to draw this character a few times, to varying success each time. And there's only a couple things that I'm really, really stuck on for this character. Because even this illustration, there's already things I know that I want to try a little bit differently. While researching clothing inspirations, I found a lot of longer vest tunic styles that I didn't incorporate here, but I would like to try because I think that would be cool. But some of the things that I'm pretty stuck on are the billowy, billowy sleeves coming off the shoulders and really flaring out around the arms. I really love that silhouette of that triangle. And then tightening, cinching up straight at the elbow down to the wrist. That, I think, says a lot about this character and their role and function in this story and society. I personally love the vests. Not necessarily this rendition, but in general, the over vests. I haven't yet found one that really sticks with me, but I'm attached to it. Probably in a way that means I need to challenge it. But I am attached to it. The pants are... well... the pants are kind of nothing. Currently I'm going with a hose due to setting. And that's fine. The pants aren't supposed to be eye-catching or anything. But I will admit that there might be a better option that I haven't explored or know about at this time. I am also attached to the idea of boots, but I struggled with these ones quite a lot. And I think part of it is because I go for knee-high boots, and there was a lot of lacing detail, which really puts a lot of visual weight on that part of the body, which is not supposed to happen. Which means a lot of things. It could mean that I need to go with a shorter boot, which is okay, but that would mean showcasing more of the pants, which aren't interesting or really anything at all. Or I could go with a different style of closure, which would be somewhat difficult with the level of industry I have this world set in. Not impossible, but somewhat difficult. So I don't know. I'm still torn on the boots. I have to think about that one quite a bit more. And the other features. Oh, the wraparound around their waist. It intentionally is supposed to look like it's probably a single rectangle of fabric that is just manipulated in a way under the vest to fall very particularly in that shape around the waist. And that once again goes back to I was trying to go for an androgynous look. As well as the culture. Because, as you will see, there are some Let's try that again. There are some geometric patterning. Wow, geometric patterning. There is some geometric patterning included on the vest and on the wrap. And that's because in this country that this character lives, a lot of the older traditional areas have a lot of that embroidery work or weaving work incorporated into their clothing. And while this character does not live in a village or town where those traditions are still very strong and that way of life is still very strong, because they live in the capital. In fact, they live essentially in the heart of this country's power system. It's still very popular for even high-class citizens to give a nod to their heritage and this country's traditions with these patterns in their clothing. So they stay away from a lot of very organic patterns. A lot more geometric patterns are incorporated into their clothing, even when it is, say, depicting organic things like flowers or trees or leaves or anything like that. Then there is not a belt, the book bag? Pouch? The leather thing at their hip. I actually quite like this. I don't know if it will stay, because I don't know if it's entirely as functional as I need it to be. In my mind, it sort of goes around their waist and could be another element holding the wrap to their waist under the vest. And in it, this character keeps their books and supplies and writing utensils, because that is a big part of both their job and their role in the story, as well as their passions and their hobbies. So it makes sense that they would keep it on them at times. Well, more or less at all times. Plus, it also fits a role with the main character as a form of a gift that they were given. Because this bag has metal, what are those called? Metal rings attaching to the leather, as well as metal, specifically brass, pins that hold the leather straps very securely. And in this country, metal is very scarce. Not because they don't have access to it. In fact, they are one of only 2 countries in this world that have vast amounts of access to metal. But the 2 countries have gone opposite directions on their approach to it. In this country, the mining of metal and the production of metal goods is strictly limited. And most, if not all, metal goods are practical in nature. Something that is worthwhile enough that it is meant to be supremely durable in a way that wood could not achieve. And the fact that this character has something with metal on it like this, it's quite a wealthy gift that the main character has given them. Which shows how much this character on screen matters to the main character, which once again matters to the story that I have in mind. But once again, all this is in flux. Nothing is ever quite established, which I think is good. Stories have to be allowed to grow and change, and so do characters. And this character's changed quite a bit, and will probably continue to do so. One of the other things that has stayed fairly standard? Consistent? Necessary? One of the features that has stayed is braids. Not this style of braids, because this I'm trying for the first time, but the idea that this character has to have a braid or a braided hairstyle. And that goes not because it is within this character's particular preference. In fact, if this character had full choice in the world, I fully believe they would cut their hair as short as possible so it's as easy to maintain, keep neat, and not bother them as possible. However, once again, back to the country where they live, long hair, incredibly important to the society. Socially, long hair is very, very important. And it has cultural relevance. Having short hair means something terrible happened. You are disgraced, you are ill, something bad is happening. Short hair is absolutely never welcomed in this society, and would cause a lot of problems for this character and others if they had short hair. So long hair it is. And while they don't like having long hair, not for any sense of femininity or masculinity, because in this country, both masculine and feminine characters have long hair. It is the standard across the board for everyone. So is braids. But they don't enjoy it because it's a lot of nuisance to maintain, and it gets in the way of things. It's a bother. So while they have to have long hair, and braiding is the standard, like strong preference standard, to keep the hair is the style and has been the style for a very long time. This character has decided, alright, my hair has to be long and has to be braided. Cool. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give it 2 braids on the back of my head, and once those braids are done, I'm going to tie them together so that there's a giant knot at the back of my head, and then just the remaining tails are over my shoulder. And I didn't draw the back of the head because that's an annoying amount of work, but I have done this hairstyle with my own hair in real life, and it does work, for the most part. It works more if there are pins involved, which, this character has access to. Maybe they do that, maybe they don't. I haven't thought that far. I don't even know if this hairstyle in particular is going to stay, because it doesn't showcase the length very well, but that also is the point, so I don't know. Things are in flux. Things can change. Who knows? The one other thing that I'm fairly attached to with this character is color palette. I very intentionally went for brown hair, brown eyes, pale skin, and a couple freckles. I'm kind of attached to the freckles, because this character comes from a place in the north where it's cold most of the time. And while there is plenty of skin diversity, I wanted to go with the most basic character I could think of. And hey, brown hair, brown-eyed, white character is pretty much the basic standard for any story in North America. So that's as basic as you can get. But the rest of the color palette, the clothing color palette, also matters, because in this part of the country, they are pretty restricted on what dyes they have available for their clothing or products. And while they're not completely out of reach for the most part, they are very expensive. Most, if not all of them, have to be traded for from other countries, which means they are pretty out of reach for the majority of citizens. They are for the aristocrats and the royals and really wealthy merchants, or ceremonial dress sort of thing. They're important and they are out of reach. But not all of them. This country does have access to reds, which is why this character has a muted red vest. And the rest of the colors are usually brown or gray, white, cream, black. And that is also intentional because, once again, limited amount of dyes, but also because a lot of their clothing is made from natural fibers, such as wool. Wool, well, maybe not wool from a sheep, I've not gone that far, but wool, an animal fiber at the very least, is used heavily in creating a lot of clothing, once again because the climate is cold, and these animal hair fibers are warm. So like the wrap around them is definitely wool. The legging hose, probably also wool. The vest, probably also wool. The shirt, not wool, that's very billowy and very soft. Soft, it's flexible. Billowy, silky, a lot of movement, loose. That's probably more a plant fiber thing. I don't know if that would go so far as to say silk. Once again, I haven't thought too hard on that one. But the main idea is natural fibers, not a lot of dye. So what you're working with are the natural colors, like browns, like creams, like blacks and grays. And that's very much the culture. Well, okay, that's very much the reality. The culture is that this society is very against a lot of, they would call it gaudy displays. I'm not really sure what a better way to say it would be, because it's not pretension. Extravagant, maybe? Essentially showiness in certain things. Like, vibrant, saturated colors are a sign of wealth, but also relates to some other countries and are not welcomed here. If you do that, you're gonna get weird looks, people are gonna think badly of you, there's gonna be whispers, bad stuff. No bright, vibrant colors. Same with a lot of makeup, or even any makeup. If you're seen wearing makeup, there's gonna be whispers, people are gonna say things, they're gonna look at you weird, they're gonna judge you. Which is also good, because that gives people more... It opens a place for people to show their actual skin and what it looks like. So, freckles, scars, birthmarks, galore. These are very normal. These are not frowned against. Which, before you think that this means makeup is bad, boo 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 boo, there is another country where makeup is a huge essential part of self-expression. Not this one, though. This is a different country, that's not the place here. So, basically no makeup. And another one is basically no jewelry. Part of that is because this culture is very... They have a modest approach to dress. Essentially, skin showing that's basically not your head. Not a big fan. Except, if you see the skin, but it's covered with fabric, even if that fabric is lace or gauze or see-through, that's fine. It's absolutely fine. So long as it's covered with fabric. There has to be a layer over the skin. And this country isn't that modest in cultural sense, but some things are. Layers and clothing are definitely a part of it. That's why this character is dressed up to the neck and has gloves. Like, no skin beyond the head is showing. They very much conform to this societal standard. And they will continue to do so even when that standard is removed, because it is important to this character to be a part of this society, meet its expectations, and gain recognition for themselves, and also for the main character to which they are attached, and whose image would be damaged if this character did not adhere to the expectations set for them. What was I talking about? Okay, if you hadn't figured it out yet, this video is fairly unedited in terms of audio. I'm just doing it all in one take because that's the only way it's going to happen. It will probably be a little bit... that right there will probably be edited out, as well as the long stretches of silence, because those aren't entertaining, even if they're real. And my brain stops working sometimes. I don't know if you're going to hear this on the video. I might edit this whole little jumble out. But that's... yeah, you know what? Yeah, we're going with that. We're going with that. Moving on. Let's see. Yeah, so that's this character. That was this illustration process. I definitely like aspects of it. There's aspects I intend to change in the future, and I'm looking forward to those. This character is not settled upon. The story is not settled upon. But I am still interested in it, and I've had this idea for going on 5 years now. I think that's proving some test of time, yeah? Or maybe not. I don't know. I hope you all are doing well. Do something fun today. Maybe write a story of your own, or a poem, or a song, or even just a sentence to describe what you see wherever you are right now. I don't know. Bye.